Sky Striker is a modern classic. The archetype was first introduced in 2018 in the Dark Savior set, and it still sees heavy play today, thanks to Konami giving it tons of love. Its latest batch of support came in the legendary Modern Decks collection, which released back in March 2026, and added powerful cards like Amatsu and Camellia. So powerful, in fact, that Striker has earned several top finishes in the last month, getting a top 4 finish at YCS Columbus on May 22nd, and even winning the German Nationals on May 29th. But what I like about Sky Striker the most is that it has a ton of power without being a prohibitively difficult to learn combo pile. Instead of executing complex combo lines to establish unbreakable boards, Sky Striker's game plan is to grind its opponent's strategy to a halt and win a war of attrition over a bunch of turns. For interaction with the opponent, Striker uses a flexible toolbox of easily summonable Link monsters to negate effects and to remove cards from the field. And for its draw engine, Sky Striker uses the spell card Sky Striker Mobilize Engage to grab the exact card it needs at any given time. Because Sky Striker doesn't require the player to perform advanced combos to play the deck at a fundamental level, I think the deck is mechanically easy for new players to learn. But its non-linear style also gives experienced Striker pilots a lot of room for skill expression too. Sky Striker is a fantastic jack-of-all-trades deck in the current game of Yu-Gi-Oh!, and in this video I want to share what my favorite characteristics of the deck are and why I've enjoyed playing it so much. For those of you who don't know me, hi, I'm Jen TCG and I make videos about card games. I've recently been posting videos about my experience of getting into Yu-Gi-Oh! As a new player. I also posted a video about Pokemon TCG and how Dragapult is taking over that game's metagame. So if you're like me and you like card games in general, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of my future uploads. Now, back to why I think Sky Striker is the perfect modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck. As a new player, I've had countless people recommend Sky Striker to me as a powerful but easy to learn deck. I've had the deck in paper and I played it once at a local, but to be honest, I didn't really understand what I was doing. I was kinda just playing my cards and hoping for the best. So I wanted to get some more practice with Striker on Master Duel, and it took me about a month of daily play to get it built. And after I got there and played a few games with it on ladder, I finally understood what all the hype was all about. At its core, Sky Striker is a pretty simple archetype. Its game plan is to play a relatively small number of powerful cards and use them to pick apart its opponent's board piece by piece. The end goal is to grind out advantage in the long run and take over the late game. The deck also features a number of cards that gain extra effects when multiple spells are in the graveyard, so the longer the game goes on, the more powerful the deck becomes. Unlike most other decks I've seen, Sky Striker doesn't require the player to memorize 10 card sequences to make the deck work or anything. Instead of having to memorize long combo trees just to play the deck at a beginner level, in Striker you only really have to memorize a few things to get started. How do you set up Zero? How do you disrupt your opponent? And how do you use your monsters and tools to clear the opponent's board? And the answer to all these questions are all surprisingly simple. First, let's go over setting up Sky Striker Ace equals 0, which is the most common go-to monster for the deck because of its versatility. 0 is a Link 2 monster that, when played, can search out a Sky Striker spell and add it to the hand. It also has a quick play effect that tributes itself to destroy any card on the field. It's important to note that this effect can't be used on the same turn as its search effect is used. Establishing 0 is the bread and butter of this deck, and it's correct to get it set up almost every game, since it's so flexible in what it can do, and setting it up is actually really easy. With Ray as the starter, its effect just gets 0 into play immediately. With Hornet Drones as the starter, Drones creates a token that links into Kagari. Kagari uses its effect to replay Drones, which is then used with Kagari to link into 0. And if you're lucky enough to start with an Engage in hand, you can just use Engage to get Ray or Drones and execute the simple combos I just showed. Or with Engage, you can even go into a more advanced combo that goes like this. Play Engage to get Drones, play Drones, link into Kagari, replay Engage to get Linkage, and finally use Linkage on Kagari to get out 0. This advanced line leaves you with 3 spells in the graveyard, which upgrades any future Engages and Widow Anchors you might play. See, this deck isn't hard. The opening combos with this deck are at most like 6 cards in a single sequence. And even the simple combo of Ray into 0 is perfectly viable in a pinch. After playing lengthy Radiant Typhoon games for a month where I had to play combo lines that looked like this, Sky Striker is a huge breath of fresh air for me. Once you get 0 set up on board, disrupting the opponent and clearing their board is really simple too. Aside from Zero's built-in destroy effect, other disruptions the deck plays include Widow Anchor for negating monster effects and sometimes stealing them for a turn, and also Lemon Escape for bouncing problematic cards. Some lists will also use cards like Shark Cannon for niche graveyard disruption, and cards like Afterburners and Jamming Waves have seen play in older lists too. What sticks out to me about these cards is that all of them are easily searchable spell cards that just get played from the hand. It's not like other decks that would require you to jump through tons of hoops to get like a Cool Tune RS into play, and then use that card's effects to negate the opponent's monsters. Sky Striker just plays a Widow Anchor when its main monster zone is empty. That's it. The most advanced disruption the deck really features is getting fancy with Lemniscate's Graveyard effect. This effect lets the player link summon on the opponent's turn by using Ray Summon effect and then immediately linking into a Zeke or Azalea. But in my opinion, this is a combo line that beginner players can ignore pretty safely at first while they get used to the basic gameplay of Sky Striker. As for clearing the board, well, after using the disruption effects I mentioned earlier to remove the most important targets, lots of times the remainder of the opponent's weak board is just attacked through. Kagari and Zero can easily hit 3000 attack when combined with Sky Striker Mobilize Linkage. After using destroy effects on the opponent's biggest monsters, 3000 attack is plenty high enough to eat through these medium and small sized bodies. And some striker lists even play cards like Lightning Storm and adopt a game plan where they choose to go second by default and use these powerful board wipes to cripple their opponent's turn 1 setups. Again, it's all super basic stuff. No need to play a complex line, like using Radiant Typhoon Crocea to get a Phonix into hand, use a quick play spell to summon out the Phonix, and then use another quick play spell to activate the Phonix trigger effect. Striker just plays disruption spells and cleans up the rest of the board with monster attacks in the battle phase. So in the last section, I might have just described Sky Striker in a way that makes it sound like I think the deck takes no skill to play. But in reality, that couldn't be further from the truth. I think Sky Striker is the epitome of easy to learn but hard to master. And I know I've just spent a good chunk of this video hyping up how playing Sky Striker doesn't require knowledge of in-depth combos to start playing the deck at a beginner level, but that doesn't mean there isn't room for learning a couple of more complex combo sequences down the line once you have a bit more experience with the deck. Notably, there are plenty of turn 1 kills that are possible with Sky Striker. If the opponent's board is clear, an OTK is possible just from a single Ray. First, Ray attacks for 1500 damage, then Ray's quick effect is used to special summon Zero. Zero search effect gets linkage, Zero attacks for 2000, linkage gets back a Kagari with bonus 1000 attack from having Ray and Zero in the graveyard, Kagari's summon trigger gets back linkage, Kagari attacks for 2500, linkage is activated to get anything else from the extra deck, and that last link monster attacks for a final 2500 damage. This is a total of 8500 damage from a single Ray, and with extra copies of linkage in hand in addition to that Ray, this number can easily be pushed even further. And if you really want to get into the weeds, there's even more technical lines you can go for if you have a linkage and a Lemniscate in discard, and a Zero on board that hasn't used an effect this turn. You first attack with Zero for 2000 damage, then use Zero's effect to summon out a Ray and Rose, which can then attack for 3000 combined. Then you use a Ray to summon a Kagari and activate its trigger to get back a linkage. Then you chain Lemniscate to Kagari's trigger to link summon a Zeke or Camellia from your Kagari, which will clear out your main monster zone as well and allow you to use linkage later. You attack with Zeke or Camellia for another 1500, and use linkage to summon out any of your remaining Sky Striker link monsters for a final 2500 damage. This adds up to 9000 damage, starting from Lemniscate and linkage and discard plus 0 on board. Again, extra copies of linkage in hand can push this well over 9000. Beyond just OTKs, many players are opting to play Sky Striker using other decks as engines and Camellia as a bridge. Right now, the most popular engine to play with Sky Striker is a Radiant Typhoon package, which first involves summoning Radiant Typhoon Swen or Eldum, using that monster's effect to summon the other. Then, both are used as link material for Camellia, which uses its effect to get an engage into discard. Then Camellia links into Kagari, which gets back the engage, which in turn is used to get Hornet Drones, which is then used to link with Kagari to summon Zero. It's a slightly more advanced combo to get Zero into play than the pure Sky Striker lists usually use. But beyond some optional, more technical combos, what I think really makes the deck truly difficult to master is just how many options it presents to the player. Because of the reactive nature of the deck and how flexibly it can deal with threats, the deck requires the player to think on their feet to consider all of their options available and form a game plan that'll get them out of a sticky situation and win the duel. While playing Radiant Typhoon on ladder, I had a great time perfecting my execution of the technical combo lines, but I'll admit that it felt a bit samey and one note after a while. The game plan was the same almost every single time I queued up. I was always spitting out Radiant Typhoon monsters to eventually link into a Vara rune, which in turn would establish a mandate to start negating my opponent's face-up cards on the field. It felt proactive to the point of going through the motions at times, since I would play out a similar combo almost every single game to try and establish a nearly unbreakable board. If my opponent managed to break it, they would win, and if they couldn't, they'd lose. And when going second, it didn't even feel all that different compared to going first either. I would just try and bait all their disruptions or turn them off with cards like Forbidden Droplet before then proceeding to just execute my main combo. On the other hand, Sky Striker hasn't felt one note like that at all. At worst, I'd execute the same 4 to 6 card combo every game to establish a 0 and a disruption spell, but a 0 and a Lemniscate alone is by no means an unbreakable board. It's just a board with multiple forms of interaction with my opponent. And like I described earlier, lots of times it wasn't quite that simple. Once I summoned 0, I'd have to choose which of its effects to even use that turn. Should I use 0's built-in Destroy effect so I can also get back a Ray and a Rose on board and use those two for another Link Summon disruption down the line, like Azalea or SP Little Knight? Or instead, was it better to save 0's Destroy effect for later and instead use 0's Tutor effect here to grab a spell to disrupt my opponent? And if I decided I wanted to grab a spell, which spell should I even get? Should I get Widowmaker here to steal a monster? Lemniscate to bounce a card while also getting Lemniscate in the discard so I can trigger a Link Summon on my opponent's turn later? None of this is even getting into how difficult it is to properly analyze the board to determine what the opponent's most problematic cards even are. Once I determined what their biggest threats were, I'd then have to figure out what the best way to sequence my effects was to clear out their board. This might honestly be worth just grabbing with SP Little Knight, or I could just drop with this. I don't know. Like, I think there's a decent argument to just using Little Knight to clear this. Hold on. I think I start out with Zeke, and then I can banish this. God, this deck is so much fun. You just have answers to everything. So this clears off my MMZ, and I can get rid of this. It has its effect, but then I can Widowmaker it. I'll just Droplet because I have the Eltham in hand that I don't need. So we'll Droplet, half this, and then we can just start manually attacking and doing stuff. So we'll activate this to get a second linkage. I think it's worth Lemniscating here just to bounce. Return the card. Probably this one. We're trying to win this turn. We'll go to battle. We'll attack. Play linkage. Sky Striker provides an alternative to the highly technical, combo-oriented, fast-paced gameplay of modern Yu-Gi-Oh! It's a very grindy deck with low mechanical complexity, so by Yu-Gi-Oh! Standards, it's pretty easy to pick up and play with just a few reps of gameplay. It's very interactive with the opponent, offering you a huge variety of disruptive tools you can use to carve your path to victory. And it takes a lot of experience to master using these tools, so the deck heavily rewards skillful players who have dedicated lots of time practicing it. Overall, I'm a huge fan of the Sky Striker archetype. I'm glad I gave it a shot. And if you haven't played it yet, I highly recommend you give it a try yourself, especially if you like slower, more methodical gameplay that rewards lots of practice with the deck. If you're still on the fence, I should also tell you that the core of the deck is like super cheap. The most expensive Sky Striker card right now is Sky Striker Ace equals 0, which is like $3 a copy. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. Remember to give it a like if you enjoyed it, and a subscribe so you don't miss any of my future videos. And leave a comment as well if you have any thoughts about Sky Striker or just this video. Likes, comments, and subscribes are all super helpful to get picked up by the YouTube algorithm, so I appreciate everyone that I get. But as always, until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day.